of this meeting, so it's okay. Thank you very much. So the recording is okay. So, okay, it's perfect. I will introduce first of all the different topics we are going to talk about together and to work together. So, what is the name of the courses? The name of the courses is to think about the new discipline within the European Union law. It is European Union law of bioethics. So what exactly it does means we are going to explain today. And then I will first of all present to you the introductory session, the EU action on bioethics. What exactly it means, the connection of the bioethics with the health policy of the European Union in the light of the health, safety, and medicines, the medical research, access to medical care, and the different legal texts adopted by European Union institutions, and it will be the directive of the European Parliament and of the Council on the application of patients' rights in cross-border health care, and the different case law of ECG, European Court of Justice. And for the next...
I'm sorry to jump in, just should we be seeing something on the screen because it's all black still? So I'm just wondering.
It doesn't work, the screen?
It's all black. It's just the black.
Okay, 1 second. One second. Why I don't know why. Now do you see the screen? I will do it again. So okay. 1 second. Okay. It's okay right now?
I mean, right now you're not sharing it with us.
It doesn't work?
We can see your face and the other
only my face, okay?
Yeah.
But not the document.
No.
I think because the problem is because I'm not the organizer of the... Oh, okay. I will try other things. Okay. Okay, I will try. Okay, it's maybe like this. Okay. No.
Perfect. Now it's working.
Now it's perfect. Now it's working. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you
very much. But it's normal, it's the first time, so we will have to manage to match something with all of us. Okay, it's perfect. The introductory section. So do you see what it exactly means? So it will be to talk about and to the Euro action on bioethics. And the first of the reflection, the first of the idea is to underline the connection of bioethics with the health policy of the European Union in the light of the health, safety of medicine, medical research, access to medical care, and of course, in the light of the directive of the European Parliament and of the Council on the application of patients' rights in the cross-border, in the patient rights on the cross-border the medical care, okay, and medical care, and it will be also we are going to study together also the case law of the European Court of Justice, and I selected the most important case laws, and I will just ask you to find these decisions on the website of the European Court of Justice in order to discuss together the different cases, the different point of view and the legal issues within the European Union, freedom of movement of persons and the bioethics. Okay, so it will be for the next courses. It's not for today. And then I will underline to explain you the position of the European Union institutions, and before following the directive, which was adopted in March 2011 on the application of the patient rights in cross-border healthcare. And then I will try to explain the European Union action in this field, which normally depends of the discretion and margin of appreciation of the member states, which are the possible legal basis, what is the nature of the EU normative intervention, and what is the nature of adopted legal text. So the different legal text is in French, but it is the same in English, so it doesn't matter. It's the different. Okay. Then the other topics, the second topics, will be the ethical issues of the free movement of persons, and in the light of the case law of the European Union Court of Justice, we have some examples which are very, very interesting about the application of European Union law within the national law. When these cases are related to some special ethics and social choices within the member states. So the first one is the voluntary termination of pregnancy. The second one is medically assisted procreation, surrogacy, and social protection for women. The third one is the status of the child resulting from an in vitro procedure. And there are four topics, four examples within the recent case law of the European Union Court of Justice. Is the case law Mirin. I will add it for the next time. And for the gender, the protection of the gender within the European Union law in the light of European citizenship. So many examples underline the importance of this new this new legal issues brought before the European Court of Justice, which is not the political jurisdictions, but only the supranational jurisdiction. So it's complicated for the European Court of Justice to take into account the bioethical issues, which is from the national margin of appreciation, discretionary of the member states. On the other hand, the application of the European Union law, the coherence of the application of the European Union law in the all member states. So this is the new issues, and these new issues could be explained by the Article 2 of the European Treaty of the Treaty of European Union, Article 2, which is related to common shared values of the member states. So this is the new approach within the judicial control, the judicial review, but this is the new approach. It's of a political nature, and the competencies of the European Union Court of Justice are only attributed by the treaties. So The European Court of Justice has not competences in principle to solve the political issue of this nature. So, and the third topics will be the exercising economic activity within the European Union and bioethics. This is one of the essential, one of main aspect of the development of the European Union bio law, because we have, in the European Union law, the first activity is of economic nature. So, how to conciliate the commercial exploitation of the scientific research involving the human body, and how to preserve, to safeguard the free movement of persons, the free movement within the European Union. And the second example, the second issue concerns the free movement and service involving the human body and its products, the medical care, for example. The fourth topic will be to highlight the ban on economic profit from the human body and in its element and the European regulations on donation. This topic could be offer the possibility to talk about the free donation, like a key element of the European system relating to donation, and the implementation of this element by the member states. And finally, I will the second topics will be the ethical issues of health data protection. This is a very actual issue within the European Union law, in the light of the proposal of the European Commission of new regulation about the health data protection and the access to this data. So this is what I think I hope to work together with you in order to give you some idea about this new context, this new evolution of the European Union law within the ethics aspects and the bioethics. So, and first of all, I will explain today why the reason why are we going to talk about the European Union and bioethics, and then I will explain. I give you some general principles, about the connection, the link between law and bioethics. Okay, everything is okay.
Yeah,
Could you?
Yes.
Yes. Any questions about what I will send this? I will send the syllabus. I will send these topics to Sylvia Koshuruk, to my colleague, and she will send you back to you. It's okay?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will begin. I will okay, I will put this. Okay, so okay, so let's begin. Bioethics is a complex subject, the product of multidisciplinary reflection, and is another spontaneous subject. Conceived in the second half of the 20th century, the bioethics is the product of an intellectual construction driven by ethical questions raised by advances and practices in the life sciences, research, and biological, medical, or genetic techniques in the field of living organisms. This questioning is made all the more acute by the multiplication and diversification of uses, therapeutic, scientific, and other, of elements of the human body. If the human body represents an issue of power, it is an object of domination and regulation for the state. So, the human sciences studied this conception under the nation of biopolitics, which proved its relevance during the health crisis provoked by the COVID pandemics. And this notion by biopolitics refers precisely to this form of interventionism and control by state political power over the living, over the body of the individual, over its hygiene, health, reproduction, mortality, etc., etc., and the application of its procedures to populations, and no longer to individuals as such. The various public policies on health, biotechnology, and biomedicine also tend to extend the idea of biopolitics. The influence of knowledge, technical expertise of the states leads to the development of legal norms that form a biolaw or bioethics law, which represents a normative response to the biological challenge. Bioethics affects the law and vice versa. The growing interest in bioethics has given rise to a particularly rich and diverse body of law, including in terms of form, combining binding and flexible law, as well as national, regional, and international law. The interaction of legal systems in this area suggests that biolaw is to some extent a multi-level law, whereas issues relating to the human body are traditionally seen as an attribute of state sovereignty. Biolaw is not just a national issue. Bioethics is no exception to the trend towards the Europeanization of law. Europe is one of the main legal and institutional arenas for the production of bioethics law. In addition to the privileged framework provided by the Council of Europe, the European Union is increasingly asserting itself as a formal and substantial source of bioethics law. Nevertheless, the idea of European Union law on bioethics is not evident. Some authors consider that the integration within the European Union's law is neither competent nor legitimate in this area. Bioethics does not formally fall within the competence of the European Union. The European Union has not expressed legal basis for action in the field of bioethics. It is true that member states are reluctant to transfer their competencies in this area, which is driven by issues of an ecological nature, of values, of common values, that are markers of national identity and sovereignty. However, the extension of the Union's competencies beyond economic and commercial issues has led, by ricochet, to bioethics becoming an object of community action. Not only has the Union's sphere of competence expanded to include sectors driven by certain bioethical considerations: research and technological development, consumer protection, the environment and health. But the objective of completing the common market has justified legislative intervention by the Union in relation to living organisms and the reconciliation of economic development and the protection of human health. Do you understand what I'm exactly saying? Everything's
Yeah, I
clear?
think so. Just a quick question. Should we be seeing something on your screen once again, or just your face? Because we're just wondering.
But yes, for the moment, because it's my courses,
Okay.
so, but I think that I will going to send you, because what do you prefer, to put my screen on what do you prefer?
No. I'm just wondering if there was like some additional material that was
Yes,
supposed to
because it
be
was
showing on the screen.
yes, it was the introduction of the courses. So I will give you some general elements about the courses, about all the topics we are going talking about together. And I think, do you understand what I mean? Could you follow me? What I exactly want to explain to you, and in general way
Yeah,
for
I
today.
think so. In addition, we have this transcription thanks to the
Okay,
recording.
okay, it's perfect. But
So
we have
yeah.
to
So
check.
in
I
case we
think
don't understand
the
something, we can
description.
always see it.
Okay, but we have to check. Okay, because I don't know
Yeah,
how
of course.
to.
Just it helps, you know.
Okay, it's perfect. Thanks. So it's everything is okay with my English, because for the first time I'll give my courses in English. So I don't know how how it sounds
I
like,
think
but
you're doing great.
it's okay. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, the other guys of the group, because you are active, but the other guys, I don't know how do we from the master degree. Yes, we are from the master degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, it's perfect. Okay. Okay, so I will continue, and in 10 minutes I will give you 5 minutes to have a break. Okay.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
thanks. So I'll continue. The quest for competitiveness in medical research, particularly throughout biotechnology, the free movement of products of the human body, and patient access to cross-border care are all areas where the completion of the single market requires ethical consideration to be taken into account. Consequently, despite the absence of explicit competence, the European Union has gradually asserted its bioethics requirements throughout its health policy, patients' rights, removal of health products, and research funding policies. However, this progress needs to be tempered, as the treaties place a significant limits on it in terms of respect for the national identities of the member states and for subsidiarity. And this justifies to a certain extent the Union's cautious approach to the development of bioethical law. The EU institutions are traditionally very cautious when it comes to issues that touch on ethical issues. This approach seems to betray the idea that the EU is not necessarily a standard-setting body likely to foster consensus on issues that are, by their very nature, highly divisive. Apart from the problem of the Union's authority to act in this area, this caution is justified by the diversity that continues to characterize national bioethics within the Union itself. Bioethics is an area still marked by disparities in national practices and legislation, which themselves reflect the pervasive diversity of cultural, legal, and religious traditions. This situation has led to delays in transposing certain directives, such as Directive 98/44 of the European Parliament and of the Council on the legal protection of biotechnological inventions. The sensitive nature of the issues involved in bioethics contrast with the essentially procedural and pragmatic, as it were, this substantialist regulation provided by the European Union. It is a question of revealing the technological rather than ontological identity of bioethics law, that it's not necessary to seek an answer to the question of the moral legitimacy of the practices it regulates, but only to that of their legality, of the legal point of view. In addition to the legal question of the legal basis for European Union intervention in the field of bioethics, it is the very legitimacy of their relationship that raises questions. What is the link between bioethics and an integrating organization whose original function is imbued with an economic and commercial rationality, between freedom of research and respect for human dignity, between the single market and the union based on the rule of law? The integration organization could not ignore bioethics reflection. Bioethics is at the heart of the dialectical relationship between market freedoms and human rights, between the mechanism for protecting fundamental rights and those of the market, between the economic logic of free trade and anti-liberal impulses derived in particular from ethical imperatives, between market values and non-market values. Furthermore, while the objective of the single market is still prevalent within the Union's legal order, it is now supplemented by axiological considerations and public policy limits that the member states and the Union's bodies set with regards to its economic freedoms. The development of EU law and policies in the field of bioethics is still based on the yardstick of a single market whose fundamental economic freedoms requires the free movement of goods and persons. The tensions that make up European Union bioethics law crystallize precisely in the legal regulation of the internal market around the relationship between economic freedoms and fundamental rights, and between market and not market values. Within the EU legal order, the traditional regulatory function of the law here consists of reconciling, on the one hand, economic freedoms and the freedom of research and scientific expertise, and on the other hand, the preservation of fundamental human rights. The result is a body of rules made up of potentially anti-liberal measures that are likely to instill a real paradigm shift in relation to the economic and commercial logic that structures the single market order. The balancing of conflicting values and interest provides the basis for the main sources of law that make up the corpus of the European Union bioethics law, a framework for compromise between sometimes contradictory requirements in search of a balance reflected in the articulation between principles and their exceptions. Bioethics is an example of the limits placed on the freedom of movement within the transnational framework of the European Union. This transnationality is also a source of limits to national bioethics law. Within the European Union, an area without internal borders, citizens of the Union have the capacity to act on a transnational level, the capacity to acquire goods, to produce, the capacity of companies and individuals to establish themselves, the capacity to marry, to care for themselves, to travel, to study, to participate in the economic, social, and political life of any of the societies making up the Union. As an area of mobility based on freedom of movement, the single market is a framework for cross-border flows that can become a means of circumventing national legislations. The free movement of people and services, particularly medical services, within the European Union is thus fueling a phenomenon of normative competition in the form of medical tourism, bioethics tourism, or law shopping that affects the effectiveness of national bioethics laws. This type of phenomenon legitimizes the need for European convergence on major ethical issues. Considerations and issues in the European Union law are not limited to the economic framework of the single market. In the other words, European Union bioethics law is not a sub-branch of the European Union economic law, but an autonomous branch that helps to underline the breadth of the European integration project. The Union's bioethics law has its roots in the non-market values of the organization and its member states, and conversely, its development consolidates the ecological and political dimension of the Union project. Although the original treaties were marked by the absence of any reference to values and fundamental rights, even though they were part of a peace process. Following a slow evolution, the integration organization is now based on an ecological corpus common to the member states and constitutive of its own identity. The affirmation of the European Union as a union of values and a union governed by the rule of law establishes a link between the appearance or nature of the integration organization and the development of bioethics law within its own legal system. The legalization of ethical principles inspires the recognition of new fundamental rights designed to protect human dignity. At the heart of the twofold movement, underlinked of constitutionalization and axiologization of the European legal order, the consecration of human dignity has strengthened the legitimacy justification of a union law on bioethics. In the absence of an express legal basis or the union's own competence in this area. Respect for human dignity is the conceptual matrix of bioethical law. This value and these fundamental rights also plays a role in the legal order of the European Union. Combined with the economic freedoms and freedom of movement that make up the single market, respect for human dignity permeates the corpus of the European Union bioethics law, which is nourished by sources of case law. The Court of Justice has had to rule on issues such as abortion, medically assisted procreation, etc. And or the definition of the embryo, and written sources consisting of binding legal instruments, essentially directives and regulations, or instruments of recommendatory, incentive, or advisory nature, recommendation of and resolutions of the European Parliament, but also opinions and assessments of the European Group on Ethics. European Union law on bioethics gives concrete expression to the discourse of the institutions and their commitment to bioethical issues, which have become a major concern in the construction of the European Union's legal order. It is also striking to note that this institutional discourse is not late in comparison with what has been observed within the member states with regard to bioethics. In this way, and it's important to stress this now, there is a chronological coincidence between the emergence of ethical reflection within the European Union institutions and the member states' awareness of bioethical issues in their domestic legal system. Since the 1980s, the European Parliament has shown a willingness to debate and influence bioethical issues, while the first positions were also taken on development in biotechnology. The European Parliament quickly became interested in the ethical and legal problems posed by genetic manipulation, in vitro fertilization, and cloning. As for the Commission, it was in the field of research and technological development that it first incorporated the formulation of ethical consideration into the community decision-making process. Awareness of the questions and ethical issues raised by this type of research also led to the creation by the Commission in 1991 of the Group of Advisors on Ethics and Biotechnology. Its replacement in 1998 by the European Group on Ethics in Science in New Technologies marks a move towards institutionalizing bioethics within the European Union. The European Council, for its part, has also followed this trend and is clearly committed to ethical reflection. This is evidenced by its declaration on the prohibition of human cloning, adopted in its formal meeting on June 1997 to approve the draft Treaty of Amsterdam. This declaration was adopted on French initiative and the instigation of the French National Consultative Ethics Committee. It is about the strong symbol of the commitment of the institutions of the Union and its member states, and of the place that the ethical issues must occupy in the construction of the Union's legal order, in view of the institutionalization of the European Council by the Treaty of Lisbon and the strengthening of its political role in the legislative process. The attention of the European Union institutions was initially focused on guaranteeing respect for ethical principles in relation to biotechnological inventions in general and genetically modified organisms in particular. The latter have already been the subject of various regulations and directives covering issues relating to their content used, their deliberated release, foodstuffs produced from them, and the transnational nature of the risks associated with their handling, while research on the human embryo, therapeutic cloning, and reproductive cloning have played a particular role in mobilizing the Union on bioethical issues. The Charter of Fundamental Rights, signed in 2000, marks a turning point in the relation between European Union law and bioethics, ushering in the apex of the European Union's legal order. The Charter expressly and specifically incorporates bioethical consideration. The bioethical consideration. Article 6 of the Treaty of the European Union and Article 51 of the Charter confirmed that expressly underlined the legal basis for normative action by the Union in the field of bioethics. The Charter, together with Article 2 of the Treaty of the European Union on the values of the Union, has now an influence on the exercise of the competencies conferred on the Union by obliging its institutions to take bioethics into consideration in the exercise of the Union's competencies. The existence, or to be more precisely, the emergence of European Union bioethics law is based on a body of legal text and rules dealing with ethical issues that has been developed in a way that is influenced by technical, procedural, and economic variables and considerations. European Union bioethics law may therefore appear to be more formal than substantive, given the proportions of procedures and methods it contains. As a result, it is the substance of the law that raises questions, due both to the difficulty of precisely determining the scope of the subject and to the fragmentation of sources that are explicitly and directly linked to bioethical requirements. So, maybe I have to go slowly. I don't know exactly. Maybe I will. I'm so fast. Everything is okay?
Yeah, I think we can follow.
Okay. Okay. So, I will continue only. The highly composite body of law is characterized by the diversity of its legal basis, in its nature and its effects, direct or indirect effect. The fragmentation of the sources of the European Union bioethics law, which is also true of international law, is itself linked to an empirical, factual phenomenon. The great diversity of practices and situations covered by bioethics as a whole, biomedical tourism in particular, reproductive tourism, imports and exports of tissues, cells, and the donation of and use of elements from the human body, organs, and gametes, the cells, medically assisted procreation, genetic testing, biomedical research on human beings, cloning, patents, and so and so. This hinders a comprehensive approach to the relationship between European Union and bioethics, and an overall understanding of the reference to bioethics in European Union law. In this respect, it is still difficult to speak of a European Union law on bioethics in the sense of a homogeneous and autonomous normative system. And on the basis of a work of systematization and putting into perspective a corpus of principles, rules, procedures, and methods developed by the policies and the law of the European Union. And this is undertaking whose raw material, bioethics, is considered here as an ethical questioning of the progress and practices of biology and medicine, while European Union law is one means, among others, of providing some answers. The aim of these courses is to identify so the European Union bioethics law as a branch of law under construction, a collection of rules relating to a particularly complex and extensive subject. In other words, the aim is to contribute to the definition of a new discipline, which presupposes a code of corpus of rules, a judge, and a doctrine whose function is to systematize the whole constituted by the first two elements, text and case law. A framework within which text, case law, and doctrine interact. The development of the European Union law on bioethics is the expression of the axiological dimension, axiological by the values, the common values of the integration project, based in particular on the value of the human dignity and the development of scientific progress applied to human beings and the way in which European Union law deals with this issue. This approach may seem restrictive one, since European Union law was first interested in related issues affecting non-human living organisms, whether plants or animals. This is largely explained by the material scope of the treaties, if only because of the exponential development of the common agricultural policies and the current scale of environmental issues and their consequences for human health, in particular endocrine disruptors. In this way, there is already a clearly identified body of law designed to organize human activities in relation to human beings, to which we might add ethically that its purpose is to contribute to the protection of living organisms. However, when it comes to human beings, European Union law has taken only a secondary interest. Reference to bioethics are rather modest, which contrast sharply with the place that the European Union law accords to the individual in his or her capacity as a subject of European Union law and as a citizens of the Union. Directive 98/44 on the legal protection of biotechnological invention was the first legal recognition of ethical reflection on scientific research and its implication for human beings. Moreover, European Union law on bioethics is essentially presented from this angle, with the conception of the human being becoming a limit to the commercial exploitation of technological inventions. While this approach to analysis is justified, it is no longer the only one possible. This is borne out by the development of health policy within the European Union and the issues at stake. Given that the citizen patients can move freely and consequently can't participate freely in medical activities. And at the root of this freedom of movement, European Union law no longer ignores bioethical consideration. It even reviews them by inviting the member states to take up these questions, since its institutional and material framework does not give it all the legitimacy or all the possibility of doing so on their behalf. It is this change of paradigm that I wish to systematize in my courses, which will provide a reading grid whenever an ethical question arises. The aim of this systemization is also to demonstrate that European Union bioethics law is becoming so autonomous that it now constitutes a named branch of the law of the European Union. Of course, this approach is critical one to the European integration. It is only to underline the evolution of this new approach based on the axiological approach brought before the European Court of Justice, and then the limits and the new dimension of the European Union through the bioethics, and ethical issues. So I'm finished. I finished the introduction of my courses, and so the last minutes of the courses, I will open the discussion. If you have some questions to discuss together about what I'm saying, what I presented during these courses. So, do you have any questions?
I think not so far.
Not so far for the moment. Everything is clear. Do you understand what I exactly want to present during my courses, the different approach about the European Union?
Yes, personally, for me, it's everything clear, so I don't have any question.
Okay. And do you understand it's not how to, I don't want to how to talk about the European Union on that that's always right, you know. It will be some critical approach also, because it's the European Union will be the motor of this evolution, and to put on the member states before put member states before the new ethical issues on bioethics, implying human beings in medical research, the choice, the human rights to undertone the personal choice and the consent. But in other way, I think it is important to not ignore this situation, this reality of the relationship between European Union and the national member states national legal order. This is the first one. It's the reality of the situation right now, thanks to the free movement of persons and the development of the health policy of the European Union at the European Union level. But the other hand, it's some very interesting way to apprehend, to explain how the decision-making process on bioethics and on bioethics law, that it's now is not only on the national level, but also on the supranational level, such as European Union, for example, but also not only the decision making, the making decision process is not only the affair of the national parliaments, but only of the citizens. So it is important to take into account the different actors of this bioethics law, which not only of the resort of the European Union, of the member states, but of the largest debate of public interest. So that's my how that's the problematic. That's what I want to try to explain to you during these courses. Not to show that the European Union is right, the member state is not right. It's not at all my intention. My intention is to think about, to reflect, to have a common reflection on these issues and matters which touch everyone, So I think it is important to have in a master degree on European Union to have this reflection together and to try to understand the reason why these bioethical issues were brought before the European Court of Justice, and what is the interpretation and the method of interpretation of the UCG, not the correct one of political point of view, of national point of view, but maybe it's the next step of the evolution of the national legal order and the European Union legal order. Okay, it's not that's only the courses to discuss together these issues and to try to explain the situations, the evolution of the social point of view, political point of view, and within the judicial review at the European Union level. Okay, that was my purpose. Do you have any questions? Some interrogations, something that I said you couldn't understand?
No, I think we can always go through the transcription, and it's going to be nice to be able to look at it from different perspectives. So thank you.
Okay. And what for the next time, I will continue to give you some general aspect about the link, about the relationship between bioethics and law. What is biolaw? What the bioethics law? Okay, and because it's a recent law. Bioethics is a recent legal regulation. I will explain why. And then for next time, I will give you also this general trend of the courses, and then the next time it will be 4th of November. Yes, will be 1 second just to check on my planning what it exactly how is.
I mean, we were told we would be having this course every week, I think. So
Yes, every week, but maybe 20 wages will be okay. I think the 4th of November is what will not possible because I have a courses in France, you know, so it will not possible, and we'll see you which other 18, okay? It will be 18th of November, okay? But next week it will I will give you my courses, okay?
okay, so just to go through it again, next week we have the course, and then we will not have it for 2 weeks, and we will
Yes.
have it again on the 18th.
Yes, but yes,
Okay.
that's okay.
Thank you.
It will be okay. Yeah, will be yeah, I will send to Madame Koshuruk the syllabus of the different topics, and I will okay, I will say I will explain to her also this. Okay. Do you
Yeah,
have any
great. Thank you.
questions? Do you have any questions?